All right, today we're talking about email marketing best practices, how to integrate email marketing into your business. My guest today is Melanie Balke. I'll tell you more about her in a second, so stay tuned.
Welcome to the Smart Business Revolution podcast, where we feature top entrepreneurs, business leaders, and thought leaders and ask them how they built key relationships to get where they are today. Now, let's get started with the show.
All right, welcome everyone. John Corkin here. I'm the host of this show. And you know, if you listen, and hopefully you have before, that each week I talk to smart CEOs, founders, and entrepreneurs for all kinds of companies. You can check out our archives for episodes with the CEOs or founders or co-founders of Netflix and Grubhub, Redfin, Gusto, Kinko's, YPO, EO, Activation Blizzard. Go check those out. We guys also have done a number of different episodes on email marketing over the years, although it's been quite a while. So I'm really excited to dive back into this topic again. And my guest is Melanie Balke. She's the founder and CEO of the Email Marketers. And before founding the Email Marketers, she held a position of head of email marketing at, I'm probably going to butcher this, banf.com, BANF.co, I think is the URL. It's one of LA's fastest growing agencies. And she has extensive experience in email marketing, has worked with some really incredible clients like Forbes, Outer Furniture, Thrasio, Open Store, Almond Cow, Bud.com, a bunch of other ones as well. She's also the CEO of Dad Jokes, it says on her LinkedIn profile. So I didn't tell her this, but I'm going to ask her at some point during this interview to give me her best dad jokes. So stick around for that. Melanie, excited to have you here. And you have an interesting story. You grew up in Germany. You kind of had this dream of ending up by the ocean, which you are now. You're in Los Angeles in Southern California. So I love to see that. But your introduction to entrepreneurship was on the local utility level, local utility level. You sold water. I've never heard that before. And to your mother.
To my mom. It's true. It's true. Yeah.
Tell us about it.
Well, my mom had gotten me a book called Money, which was a great book. It was about a dog. The dog was named Money, and the dog was teaching you about money. And I guess that inspired me to be entrepreneurial. And I had watched my mom collect rainwater. Like whenever it would rain, she would put out little buckets to collect the rainwater because she thought it was, good and whatnot to put it on the balcony for the flowers. So I was like, okay, well, if I just collect more rainwater, I can just sell her rainwater. And so I used her own buckets, put them out on her own balcony. And then
like, now this is my rainwater.
You're correct. I'm like, now I own this and I would like for you to buy this from me. My mom was a good sport. She gave me a couple of euros. This was probably even pre-euros. This was probably Deutsche Mark. Gave me a couple of those. And I was like, oh, cool. I believe it is doable. And so that was the first thing I ever did.
That's great. But that's such great encouragement for kids, right? I almost always pull over for lemonade stands every time I'm driving by, unless my wife is like, we can't stop for another lemonade stand, but I will always want to stop because I just want to give them that encouragement, And then that led it to a neighborhood bread delivery that you did.
Yeah, so we lived in an apartment surrounded by many other apartments. And in Germany, it's very common. You wake up in the morning, you go to the bakery and you get fresh bread. And it's not like loaves of bread. It's like these little brötchen that you eat. Everyone has their own individual one, and they're obviously the best when they're freshly baked. And so I went around and I put up, little Post-its or little notes, flyers in the surrounding apartments and just saying like, hey, I'll go and I'll deliver you your bread in the morning so you don't have to go out and get it.
That's great. And of course, this is a natural progression. I can see the path here. So from selling water to selling bread to nightclub. And I skipped McDonald's in there, which actually a lot of successful entrepreneurs, I believe Mark Cuban might have worked at McDonald's, it might have been his first job, have worked at McDonald's. So what did you learn from, over the fries at McDonald's?
Yeah. It's funny. My parents never were like, oh, you got to go get a job now or anything like that. This was totally self-motivated. I was just driven. I wanted a job. I wanted to be independent. I wanted a job so bad. And in Germany's pretty strict. Most jobs you have to be 18. So I don't know, fun fact, if you watched the Euro Cup, Spain had a player that was 16 and they had to pay the German government because the player had to play games post 8 p.m., which you're not allowed to. So Germany's pretty strict on child and young labor. And McDonald's was the only place that hired people when they turned 16. It was like one of the few places. And so that's how I got a job at McDonald's. What did I learn? That was a hard job. That was the first job I had where I was like, oh man, I wish I was going to school right now instead of to work. It was fast paced. So I learned being in a fast paced environment. I worked at probably one of the busiest, if not the busiest McDonald's in my city. I learned, just fast paced and how, that working hard is working hard. And I'll never forget, I saw this older lady and she was cleaning up one of the trays, and I like had this real moment of like, wow, like she's like in her 60s. She's cleaning up trays. Like, this is a hard job. So I had a moment of respect, I guess. Respect for hard work and the fast-paced life of like hospitality type businesses.
I often say that I think we learn as much from the bad jobs we have early on as the good jobs, or rather the jobs that we don't like, or that are really hard, not easy. And you also went and worked at a nightclub, which your parents were not too happy about. So from working during the day over the fries to cleaning up liquor bottles and things like that. Tell us about that experience and what you learned from it.
Yeah. Not a bottle girl, but the girl who actually cleans the glasses after the bottle girls, which I don't know if that makes it better or worse.
So is that like you like aspire to become a bottle girl, or?
No. I was just,
That's the career path?
really inspired to become a bottle girl. I didn't even really know what I aspired to be. It was just like the hottest new nightclub. It was like when I was like 18-ish, which was like going out was cool at night. This was like a cool job to have in my mind back then. And my parents did not think so. It was a huge, huge point of arguments in my family. Came up multiple times. So I started, and you start kind of, I guess, as the girl who cleans up glasses and cleans the glasses. And that was also a hard job, because that's when I learned that working at night's not fun. Like, that's when I learned that when I look at DJs now and people are like, oh my God, they have such a great life. I'm like, oh my God, that would be my worst nightmare to have to work at night. I learned that working at night's not super fun. Again, also, it was definitely hard work, right? It's both physically and mentally hard work because it's loud, it's late at night, it's fast paced again. And I guess the reason I left there was that was like my first contact with something that didn't feel super kosher. Like, they paid me in cash. There's like no official like work agreement or anything. I once saw them fill in like higher quality liquor and lower quality liquor into higher quality liquor bottles. So kind of my first touch point with I don't know,
shady stuff happening. Yeah.
And maybe that's even more common than I know or that I knew back then, but it was like my first.
It's an eye opener when you first see it and you're 18 years old.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I waited on tables during high school and college. And what that taught me is that I didn't like working when everyone else was relaxing. It'd be in a restaurant full of people. It was a barbecue ribs restaurant, and I didn't even eat ribs. And, all these people are enjoying themselves. It's a Friday night. It's a Saturday night. It's the end of the work week. They're enjoying themselves. And I'm working as hard as I have all week long. And I'm like, this sucks. Like, I want to be relaxing when everyone else is relaxing.
I agree. I mean, like, I think those experiences were part of why I believe working in the hospitality industry, whether it's a restaurant or a nightclub or a hotel, are the hardest jobs you can have and also the hardest businesses to run, right? Like, I think agencies are some of the harder businesses to run, but I still don't think they compare to a nightclub or a hotel. Like, those are very, very difficult businesses to run.
Right. So you graduate from college and you make your way over to, you had some family in the LA area. Was that hard to make that leap? Because, today in the news, there's all kinds of stuff about immigration, and I don't know how, if it was easier then, if it's harder now. What was it like?
I mean, it wasn't hard in terms of immigration. I think the hardest piece is, leaving your family behind. It wasn't even hard so much as in leaving Germany, because I always had a feeling I wanted to leave and explore. I did a semester abroad in Hawaii. I did a semester abroad in Sydney. I worked in New York after high school for a bit. So I always had a call for the wild or a call
Hmm.
for getting out of Germany. So that wasn't so much hard, not even really leaving my culture behind because I knew America and especially LA where I moved to very well. I have a lot of family here. I think the hardest part is one, leaving your family behind, and two, this was still the beginning of my career, I would say. And I graduated from one of the best business schools in Germany and Europe. I think what was hard was coming here with a CV that in Germany would have been very, very good and
But in the
landing
United
here,
States, people don't know it, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
where no one
Yeah.
knows. So
Yeah.
getting my footing here was a little bit more difficult,
Yeah.
especially with the cost of living, right? The cost of living in LA in particular is insane.
Especially compared to Frankfurt area.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what were some cultural challenges for you, or did you feel like you had fewer because you'd already lived in the States a couple of times before?
I probably had fewer than other people, but I still think living somewhere and visiting somewhere is very different. The biggest challenge I think is around, people say German culture is very cold and American culture is very friendly, and that is absolutely true. But I think the difference is in German culture, it takes a while, it takes longer to really become friendly with someone. But once you are friendly, you really are friends. And I think in LA, in America, but in LA particular as well, even more so than in other areas, you can go to a party and you can be like, oh, let's exchange numbers and hang out, and you'll exchange numbers and you'll never hang out. That is totally normal here. And so I think in Germany it's much more like when you're friends, you're really friends, like that's a real friendship, versus in the US it's a lot more superficial. that was
Yeah.
that was really hard.
Having grown up in Los Angeles, I can verify exactly what you just said for sure. Definitely true. So you had studied marketing actually in business school. Did you know that you would eventually end up in email marketing, or is that something that you eventually got into through the different agencies you worked at?
Yeah, just total coincidence. I mean, I didn't even know that it was going to be marketing. I knew when I did business, I chose business because I thought, law and med school were the other two options. And I thought business would give me the most, it interested me the most. And I thought it would give me the most flexibility as well. And then in business school, my first, in Germany, your bachelor's is very general. So you do everything, you don't really specialize in anything. And I just noticed that if it was around finance or accounting, I would have to like really study. And when I really studied, I still didn't quite get it. I just knew how to solve the problems.
Hmm.
But when it came to marketing and management, I'd open the book and I'd be like, yeah, like, duh, this is like so obvious. Like, I don't,
Hmm.
why am I reading this? This is like obvious. And so then talking to a couple of friends of mine, I realized like, oh, like that's not normal. That it's so clear to me is not how everyone feels. And so marketing interested me more and more. I thought it was exciting. And then I went into marketing consulting. So consulting for larger firms on marketing issues and challenges, and had nothing to do with email. And then eventually, once I joined Apartment 2B, which was the ecom brand that I joined in-house as the first marketing hire for them, I did this whole consultant thing where I came in and I looked at their entire email, at their entire marketing, and I said, here's a 100-page presentation. Here's your opportunities, and here's what we should be doing. And so they went, whoa, okay. What do you want to work on first? And I said, I'll do email, because I felt like, they were like selling sofas and things like this, like high average order value items, and they weren't really cross-selling anything or touching on these customers again. So I said, let's do email. And then I did email. I taught myself with the teacher called the internet, and suddenly saw like really good results. And that's when I fell in love with email.
And were you drawn to the crafting of the email? Were you drawn to the, structure of like, because it can get very complicated very quickly, especially when you're talking about like email commerce, that kind of thing. You can have like, and I've done a fair amount of email. I know you can go down these different kind of threads or whatever you want to call them, different campaigns for different purposes, and it can get infinitely complex very quickly. Is that what you were drawn to, or is it drawing, or is it drafting the actual emails, the copy, or all of the above?
I think all of the above. I love that it had a very strategic piece where you had to look at data and understand the data and then craft the life cycle of the customer and when and how he would be getting or she would be getting these emails. So I really enjoyed that piece, right? Like the strategic piece. But then I also loved that you had a creative piece to it as well, right? Like you developed the life cycle, the strategy, but then you also had to put copy and design behind it. And I felt like it was a little bit full circle. And then I love the impact, right? Like you can see immediate impact with email. You send an email and you see how much revenue it brought in. I loved seeing results. I'm very results focused, so that was a big thing as well.
Yeah. And you end up going from there to a big agency. What led that decision? Because that can be a very different type of lifestyle for someone.
Yeah. I think I just felt like I wasn't learning as much anymore and growing. And I'm always interested in learning and growing. And so it really happened organically. Like we connected on LinkedIn. I connected with one of the co-founders on LinkedIn and he was like, "Hey, do you want to come interview for a job?" And I was like, I guess. And so I went in there and interviewed and got the job and loved how fast paced it was. That's also what I wanted. I wanted to go back from in-house, which can be great, but is not as fast paced like consulting, to something that was more fast paced, like the agency space again. And I just wanted to grow and learn and grow and learn. And I felt like that would have been, or that was a good place for that.
Yeah. And you end up founding your own company after that. The email marketers decided to really drill down and focus on email. Let's just ask. I just want to ask kind of a very broad question, but it's, we're recording this in the second half of 2024. I'm sure there's some people who are thinking like, email, why email? That's so 2005. You've got TikTok, we've got Instagram, we've got all these different channels now. Like, why email? Does email even work anymore?
Yeah, I love this question. It definitely does. We used to have stickers. I don't think I have one here, but it's like email is not dead because people have been saying email is dead since
For
like
20 plus
2005.
years, probably, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not dead, it's still alive. It's the channel of the undeads and it's still super effective, right? In fact, it's become more important now as these other channels become a lot more expensive. So email is absolutely not a substitute for TikTok or Facebook ads or Google ads or any means by which you bring new customers in the door. But email is absolutely crucial and incredibly cost effective to one, convert these people, right? Because you bring eyeballs to your website, let's say, and that costs you a lot of money. It's getting more expensive too. You don't want those eyeballs to just disappear. You want at least another medium by which you can communicate with them. And email is very cost effective because it costs you almost nothing to send an email.
Because when they get to your website, statistically, they bounce within 20 seconds
Right.
or 30 seconds or something like that.
Right.
So if they opt in, then you got them on an email list. You could communicate with them for years.
Exactly. And that's just one small piece. I think the even bigger piece is retention, right? So again, you could acquire a customer and sell them a t-shirt for 20 bucks, and you could acquire that customer for $5 back in the day. You had a $15 margin. A lot of e-commerce brands now, they sell a $20 t-shirt and it costs them $20 to acquire the customer. They made zero money on that. So they need the second and third and fourth purchase to actually make money. And a cost-effective way to bring a customer back to buy and buy and buy and buy again is email. Besides that, not just about bringing them back to buy again, it's also a channel that crafts their experience with your brand, right? Especially if you're online only. People used to go into a store and there was a salesperson and a smell and the design and you could see everything. And that was the experience with the brand. Now you have your website, you have email, and you have social. So the experience with your brand is a big piece too.
Yeah. And what do you say to people that I find when I talk to people about email, they have this subjective, because everyone uses email, they have a subjective experience with it. They say like, oh, I don't check my email, or I get too many emails, as if that is the definitive answer to whether email works or not. So what do you say to people who say that?
I mean, I would love to show them the dashboards of how much revenue we're generating. I mean, the fact is email works and we see it across a bunch of people, a bunch of clients. It doesn't work for every brand, right? But we see it for almost every brand it works. And you might be deleting 90% of your emails, but I can guarantee most people have bought something off of an email they've received before.
Yeah. And you have worked with some of the amazing brands here. Can you take us through like one or two of these brands that you've worked with that maybe came to you and either weren't doing it right or weren't doing anything with their email, and kind of what you did, what you implemented in order to make it a more effective channel for them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, thinking about what I could tell you guys. So apparel, big with apparel. We work with a brand. They're a big shoe brand. They came in to about 10% of the revenue coming from email. A good benchmark's about 30%. So you can see there's a big gap. A couple things we did for them was start at the beginning, optimize your email capture. Actually make sure that you're offering people a good incentive to get on your email list. And now suddenly from their website visitors, we're seeing a much larger percentage of people convert to the email list.
It seems like a lot of times, at least on consumer brands, that might be 10% off, 15% off their first purchase or something like that. It's common.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Can
Yeah.
be that, can also be something else if you want to capture someone more top of funnel. You can run a giveaway. You can give them a lead magnet sometimes if it's like a parenting brand. You can give a parent guide. It really depends on your audience, your brand, what you're able to give, and at what stage you want to capture people. But most often overlooked is like the first step of your email program is, how do I optimize how people get on this list? How do I make sure I'm squeezing the most juice out of that section?
Okay. Okay.
So we
What
did
else?
that for them.
So optimizing, making sure that they're capturing the email. What else?
Yeah, so we did that for them. Now we have more people that we can actually target and reach via email. A big piece then is to look at the entire customer life cycle and we go, okay, people come in and then how do they engage with the brand and what types of information do we send them at what point in their life cycle? So really talking about trigger things like when they subscribe, when they abandon their cart, when they look at a product, when they purchase, how do we elevate that experience and make sure that email complements it at every level? And then, of course, the campaigns. And for them, like we went deep into the campaigns. We went, okay, like who are the people who've bought 5+ times? How do we bring those people back if they haven't bought in a while? And if they've bought many times and they've spent a lot of money with us, we can give them bigger discounts to bring them back and reactivate them because they're a higher value customer, right? So we did a bunch of that and then slowly started moving up to 25% about of revenue from email. Still a little bit more to go, but definitely adding the 15% was a huge
Wow.
win.
Over doubled the amount of revenue that came from email. Yeah. And then what do you say or what do you advise in terms of like frequency of communication? You know, there's a lot of people that have opinions about that or like, oh, I get emails too frequently. What do you say to that?
Yeah, listen, it depends. You're going to hate this answer. It depends. It depends on the engagement metrics that you are seeing. If you're sending emails and you're seeing good open rates, although unreliable, but let's just keep it in there. Good open rates, good click rates, low unsubscribe rates, low spam flag rates. If you're seeing good engagement metrics, keep sending emails. However, make sure you're sending to a segmented audience. Now, why do I say keep sending emails? Because people get hundreds and thousands of emails a day. There's a very, very high likelihood they actually didn't see your email that day. So as long as the engagement metrics are good and you're not seeing in the numbers that you're annoying people because they're unsubscribing or spam flagging you or they're not even opening your emails anymore, as long as you see that you're not annoying them with that, keep sending emails. That being said, quantity does not equal quality. So don't just send emails to send emails. That's my other piece, right? And I know they're a little bit, say they're almost opposing thoughts, but don't just send emails to send emails because there's got to be something valuable in there for your subscribers. That would be my second thought on that.
So I imagine it, you mentioned like parenting brands. A parenting brand maybe would have more email that's educational or talking about, you know, different stages of the life cycle for parenting, you know, young kids to toddler on up. Whereas if it's more of a, you know, one-time purchase like a couch or something like that, maybe that would be less educational.
Yeah, I guess the way I look at it is how could I add value to this person's life? How could I send an email that they open and they find so valuable or that excites them so much that they're going to look forward to the next email I send them? And yes, that obviously differs from brand to brand. It can be more educational for one. It can be more fun for one. For another, it can just mean like transactional stuff, right? Maybe there isn't anything to do there and you don't have to force the issue if it's not natural. But I guess it's a case by case basis. the question for me is always like, does this add value to their life?
Mm-hmm. And then you mentioned 30% of revenue coming from email. Is that specific to like consumer brands?
Yeah, predominantly e-commerce.
Okay. And then are there any other engagement metrics that you advise companies to look at?
Yeah, I mean, so the open rate's a little bit more unreliable now. What I would say is look at the open rate as a canary in a coal mine. So look at it as a rate that you want to see whether there are fluctuations in your own open rate across campaigns. We do see about like 40 to 60% is what the new open rates are post iOS 14 that we're seeing, 15 that we're seeing across email clients. Click rate about 1 to 3% is what we're seeing. Unsubscribe and spam flag rate. Gmail just put out a new, I always confuse these. So hold on. I'm going to Google this for you guys because I always say these wrong because they're fairly low. So your spam flag rate should be, I believe, below 0.02. Hold on. Below 0.3% is your spam flag rate.
Okay.
You want to keep that below 0.3%. We like to do 0.2% just so we have some buffer. If your campaigns go above the 0.3% with the new Gmail and Yahoo changes, you can get dinged very quickly in reputation.
Mm.
So keep that below that. Bounce rates, you want to keep, I believe, below 0.5%. Don't quote me on this. I'm very bad at remembering numbers. I have it written down somewhere here. And unsubscribes, you also want to keep, I like to keep them at least at around 0.5% and not go higher. But there's also a pretty good benchmark around that I'm happy, John, if you want to look it up and send it your way later.
Okay, cool. Thanks. And then this might be getting really into the weeds here, but what do you recommend in terms of like re-engaging? So there might be some people listening to this who've got a bunch of, email subscribers that they don't even realize or not communicating with them. How do you recommend like warming up with the sequence like that?
Yeah, so re-engaging people who used to be engaged but are not engaged anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a little hack, and I shared this at a mastermind recently, and I got really excited because I got a friend of mine who then messaged me and said, hey, I just re-engaged 15,000 people with a free ebook. Thank you so much.
Nice.
My hack is people love free stuff. You really want to know whether someone's still getting your emails and just not opening or engaging, or whether they're really not seeing you're sending them emails. Send them free stuff. And so we did this for a brand, and we sent their unengaged audience a giveaway. And we said, hey, enter for free. In this case, it was like gummies for children. Enter for free gummies for children. And we re-engaged like 40% of their unengaged audience. Cool. And I was like, oh my God. So we've been sending and by the way, we've sent these people, they like, hey, we're going to unsubscribe you. Hey, please tell us if you still want to get our emails. Like they've gone through the re-engagement flow. But when we sent them the giveaway, they engaged. And
but you can't say free in the subject line, right?
You're not supposed to, no.
You're not supposed to. So you have to say something else creative that isn't using the word free.
There's a list of
Do you want these gummies or something like that? Or
spam flag.
Yeah.
No, in that case, we'd say like giveaway because it's a giveaway. In that case, it was a giveaway. I don't know what he used for a subject line. When we do subject lines for free things, we just use different words or we describe it differently without saying free.
Okay. Now I know somewhere, I think it was on your LinkedIn, you said you want to be like the Ogilvy for email marketing or something to that effect.
Yeah.
Are there classic copywriters that you look up to or that you admire, whose books you've read that you are a fan of, that you'd want to give a shout out for?
I mean, I really, really love, like I said, anything the Ogilvy company puts out. So there's a book here I have on my bookcase. I almost forgot the word for bookcase. On my bookcase called Alchemy by the CEO, Rory Sutherland of Ogilvy. That's a great book. It's not on copywriting, but it's really on marketing psychology and people psychology. I'm personally not, I don't think I'm a great copywriter. I don't think that's my biggest strength. I have a great team of amazing copywriters. If you ask my head of copy, he'd probably be able to give you good answers. I really like following Chase Diamond. He does a good job on all things email, and he does a good job on all things copywriting as well. He has, I think, a copywriter on his team that sends copywriting specific tips and tricks. But otherwise, I'm more in the realm of marketing psychology and strategy than copywriting. I have a team that really focuses on the copywriting.
Got it. And everyone's talking about AI these days. Is that something that you are fearful of, or is that something that you think will make your life easier or harder? How's that going to affect your industry?
Yeah, I think both. And I mean, am I fearful of AI? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a probability that AI comes and someone builds a tool that does everything that we do as a service, as a platform. Absolutely. Do I think that's probable? No. I think there will always be a need for the human service aspect in some way. Do I think our business model is going to change? Yes, absolutely. So we use AI to our advantage. It's helped us be better and faster at what we do, whether it's data analysis or copy or actually designs. It helped us create designs that before would take us 20 hours to do. Now it takes us 5 minutes, not even, to do that design. So it's allowed us to be a better agency. I'm not fearful. I don't think so. I think it'll make us better. And I think, sure, it might change our business model and the way that we work with people. But I don't think that, I'm not in the doom and gloom kind of team.
Yeah. You're positive overall. I feel the same way. You got to be cautious. You got to study it. You got to know about it. But those who are afraid of it, look, you're going to have to deal with it one way or another. Well, this has been great, Melanie. I want to wrap up. I have a last question that I always ask, which is my gratitude question. I'm a big fan of gratitude, especially recognizing people who've helped you along the way. And you've mentioned some people in this conversation. So you can mention some of those or some others. And then after that, my next question is going to be about the dad joke. So first, gratitude. Who would you like to shout out and thank for helping you in your journey?
I mean, I have so many people from, getting me my first jobs or my first real job to my former bosses. I think everyone or colleagues, everyone's played such a huge role in where I am now, my family included. But I think this gratitude round would go to my team, like anyone who currently works at the Email Marketers or who's ever worked at the Email Marketers. You can't build anything alone. And so a lot of people's hard work has gone into where we are today. And I know a lot of people's hard work is going to keep going into where we're going to be in the future. And yeah, I'm just grateful for the team that believes in the mission and works with me towards it.
Okay. All right. CEO of Dad Jokes, Inc. What you got?
Okay, this is going to be lame. You're going to expect
I'm expecting lame. Better. I'm expecting lame. If it's not lame, I'm going to be disappointed.
Okay, you were going to expect something better, but I'm going to say, what did the mom tomato say to the baby tomato as they were crossing the highway?
I'm so bad at guessing these. See you to me later or something like that. I don't know.
Ketchup.
That's good. That's good. I'll have to use that one. That's good. All right, Melanie, where can people go to learn more about you and the email marketers?
Yeah, www.theemailmarketers.com. You can check out our website. A new one is coming out soon, actually. Check me out on Twitter, Melanie Balke, Melanie_Balke, or LinkedIn. Yeah, all good places to find me.
Awesome, Melanie. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Smart Business Revolution podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.